Now let's talk about open culture. And let me start again with a small video clip of the orange view on that. I mean, in a huge organization like this, how do you, in God's name, how do you create a mind shift? How do you change a culture in a large organization like that, besides putting some posters on the wall? So how do you do that?
I think the transformation and changing culture is the key,
Yep.
and it's part of the innovation, because I think it's the most difficult part. I refer often to it, it's like I've never been a smoker, but I understood that getting rid of smoking is difficult. And the traditional approach to transformation is you create a burning platform, you tell people what's in for it,
Yep.
and go for it. I think it's true, but it's not enough. I think it's like when I said to smoking, make the analogy. If you say to a smoker, you can get really badly ill by smoking, I think everybody knows it by now, and you can save a lot of money if you stop smoking, burning platform, and what's in it for me.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have stopped smoking by now, which is not the case. So what makes it that the people still grab a cigarette in certain circumstances? I think that's the key point. It's habits, changing habits, and changing habits is not something you just declare. You just don't define it top down. And what you do is, I think, and that's the key part, is making people live other ways of doing things by accompanying them on a daily basis. By people who have no stakes personally in it, who accompany on an operational level, on an operational way, due a long time. It's not just a 2-day course about innovation and thinking differently. I think you have to accept it that changing habits, and if you go profoundly changing culture of a company and transforming it really, it takes time. You cannot, I see a lot of people trying to rush it and say, okay, we're going to do another presentation, it's going to the chief of the chief of the chief who's going to drill it down. You won't get it. It's changing the habits of the people, so you have to do it. Yes, it doesn't harm, on the contrary, that the chief of the chief of the chief says it, but you have to accompany it on the floor, on the ground, and accept that it takes time.
So let's talk about changing culture. So, Charles, how do you do that? I mean, MTN have been around quite a while as well, and so creating a culture of collaboration and giving people the freedom to fail and so on. How do you change a culture?
Yeah, Hendrik, the difficult one. Hey, I really wish we had a very a easier way of cultural transformation, but culture is tough. I mean, if you look at a company like ours, when we started in the early stages, we were very pro innovation, startup mindset in the beginning, launched in multiple markets, very difficult markets, very successful. We're number one and number two in all the markets in which we operate. But then, when the company starts to do well, then it gets settled with bureaucracy, becomes more difficult. People become a little bit more, averse to taking risks. Very, very difficult, So the way I think is that you almost need to make sure that the company does not settle. You have to get the organization into a perpetual state of movement, which is very difficult. But if you allow an organization to settle, it's very difficult to actually break it up and make it to move again. So you have to create the agency constantly in the organization, and not sort of like allow people to believe that there's a destination to arrive to. If you keep it moving, if you keep the intensity within the organization, then you have a chance of pivoting in any direction you want. But I can tell you for sure that you are not finding it easy today. This is 21 markets, very difficult cultural nuances in different geographies, very, very complex. And then you are dealing with aggressive level of competition that's coming in. You have to now almost dissect the company into multiple pieces to make it to compete. It's a big ship, so it doesn't turn quite easily. So you need to maybe find a way to break it into pieces. Like what we are doing now, we are now creating dedicated business for fintech, carve it out. Dedicated business for data center and fiber, carve it out. Create a business for API, carve it out. You know, almost like take this whole big ship, cut it into multiple, you know, speedboats, allow that business to move, to create enough momentum to can bring everybody along. It is not easy to move everybody, you know, together. So you need to find segments within the organization that are much more pro innovation, people who are comfortable with change. Use them as examples. But all that I'm telling you is much more easier said than that. It is quite difficult. It's quite complex.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles. Now we have a little bit of an unexpected guest. We can allow people from the audience in the panel as well. And Sabine Everard, you asked to be permitted and to talk. And so if you could unmute and show your video, then we can have you join in the panel here as well. And while you do that, let's go to Angela. So Charles says you need to create a constant urgency. So for change, and you need to cut up the company in pieces so that you have smaller vehicles that can maneuver quicker. How do you do that at BT? Are you cutting up BT in 100 smaller companies, or what's the strategy there?
No, not at the moment, that's for sure. I mean, I think for us, it's about, you know, really creating that kind of culture of curiosity and that constant learning and constantly sharing information and trying to create transparency. And from a cultural change point of view, you know, Charles is right. It is really difficult, and it does require sort of mindset shifts, and those sorts of things don't happen overnight. And I think the way that you start to create those shifts is being really, really clear on your purpose and being very, very clear on your strategy, and then creating the right environment in order for people to be able to go and deliver against that. And I think that's, you know, something that we've recently, you know, I say recently, in the last year and a half, we've got a very clear purpose for BT. We connect for good. We have a very clear strategy against that, and 3 pillars that we all stand behind. And then we create a golden thread, if you like, from what we're doing on a day-to-day basis back into that strategy, so that people really understand why they're doing what they're doing and how what they're doing is going to contribute to the BT strategy, but then also how that contributes to our customers. And we're you know, trying to get people a lot closer to our customer insights, so that that whole understanding of purpose and understanding of why is there. And then as far as the environment goes, you know, I think leaders play a massive part in creating that right environment and role modeling some of the things that we're asking our people to do, so that we can show that, you know, we're not just commanding and controlling or directing, but we're actually part of that journey with them. And one of the things that, you know, we're role modeling now, right from the top down, is you know, that learning culture and taking that time out to learn, taking that time out to continually grow your skills. And I think that's a really important part, because if people are learning constantly and they're understanding the reasons why, and they're able to you know, move their mindset into more of a change and transformation mindset, that will really help us to deliver against those goals that we have. And that's all sort of supported and underpinned by our agile transformation, so our move to more agile ways of working, and the way that we're structuring teams and looking much more cross-functionally, rather than working in traditional silos where you have lots of handoff points and, you know, lots of complicated processes, bringing those teams much closer together and looking at things from an end-to-end perspective. And all of those things, I think, combined, you know, will help us to make that shift from a culture perspective. But it does take time. And, you know, I think when you start down that path, it feels very hard, and you might not see that shift immediately. But when you do start to see that shift, and when people are demonstrating how that's working for them, other people want to get on board. As soon as they see that actually this team's, you know, done this thing and it's amazing and it's working really well, then they want to do that as well. And so you start to get a real snowball effect of that change, and we're seeing that. And it is you know, amazing when you do see the fruits of that come to fruition.
Okay, we've shown the results of the poll in the meantime. So where we asked, what stage are you in the journey of cultural transformation of your organization? And the options were nowhere, just started making good progress, or we have been there, we've done it, and we have the t-shirt. And about, let's say 50% are nowhere, or they just started, and 50% making good progress, or they've already arrived. If at all is at all possible, I would say. So that's I'm interested to talk to these 9 people that voted for. We have been there and done that. We have done our cultural transformation completely. So that would be an interesting debate as well. So, but I would say still 50% of the people say, well, we still have a lot of work to work on the mindset and the culture in our organization. Honoré, maybe an interesting question for you is, you've worked in a number of big tech companies. I mean, they're innovative by design. You now work at REDHAT. Do you see a difference in culture between the, let's say, traditional tech companies and where you are now at REDHAT? Is there a REDHAT culture?
Oh, very much so, actually. You know, and our culture is anchored in you know, the whole concept of open innovation, open collaboration, and open community. I think if there was ever a framework that was created on how to really create and foster an open culture, you know, REDHAT is one of the primary examples of how to do that and how to do that well. Open culture at REDHAT isn't just something that's unique to REDHAT. It's something that we offer out to our customers and our partners in the way that we work with them, right? As I mentioned earlier, open culture and open community and collaboration go hand in hand with open innovation. So all while we're contributing to and participating in and supporting the open source community and open technology, just by the very nature of that effort, there really needs to be a strong open culture. It's not easy, and it certainly isn't perfect. Even at REDHAT, you know, we've been practicing, and, you know, open culture is really at the core of who we are as a company. It's not perfect, right? We have a way of saying, you know, this is when we're our best selves, you know, when we're doing our very best with the open culture. So it's not a process that starts at one point and then progresses continuously toward an endpoint. And I think this comment was made earlier. It really is more of a spiraling type of a process, as with any change is. You have where you make really good progress, and then you learn, and then you have some setbacks, and then you continue to grow. The other comment, I think, from our experience at REDHAT is open culture really does start at the very top of the organization. And I'm really impressed by the comments that Angela and Charles and others have made on this, because it's clear that it's coming from the very leadership teams inside of those organizations. And we see that at REDHAT as well. It proliferates throughout the organization. And I think also, in addition to the clear purpose and some of the practices that Charles talked about in terms of compartmentalizing it and taking pieces of it and doing it well and using that as an example, it also requires consistency, right? Consistency in behavior. It requires integrity. The team when you're trying to drive this transformation and drive this change, there needs to be a fundamental level of trust across the organization, in each other, in the leadership team, in what the purpose is and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think consistency and integrity and purpose, all of those things foster that trust. It's a journey, but once you get into the journey and you get a sense that you're making that transition, it really is a wonderful experience. One of the reasons why I chose the opportunity at REDHAT was because I connected to the open culture, right? And I connected to that, sense of purpose around an open culture inside of REDHAT.
Now, I think it's fascinating, in fact, that if you take a step back, that a lot of new ways of working, the collaborative ways of working, comes from these, open source communities, where on the front of that way of working. And if you look at the agile way of working, that also comes from IT. So I mean, from technology, IT has driven a lot of innovative ways of collaborating, open ways of collaborating, agile ways of working. So, so I think that's a personal reflection.
It's particularly rewarding and inspiring when you start to realize what you're accomplishing through an open culture and this open community and open collaboration. The sense of accomplishing great things together is one of the most rewarding aspects of the work that we do. And so I think that's the other element of open culture is, you know, when you finally start to experience, you know, some of the things that, you know, when you're delivering or for our customers, when our customers are delivering services that not only benefits their business and their success, but also benefits the community, and you've done that collaboratively and you've done that together, it's an amazing sense of accomplishment and reward. Now,
I believe that culture is bottom up and top down, right? And so, and so given the example, leadership by example is very, very important. So let's zoom a little bit into open leadership. And Glo, maybe you can start this topic. I mean, you're the CEO of the company. How do you bring an open leadership style? How have you maybe changed the leadership style in your company?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is making everybody clear on what our vision is, helping, you know, collaborate to create that vision, but picking your direction and then being very clear about measuring against success and progress against that direction. And I think having everybody in the same boat and understanding where you're trying to go, what the outcome is that you're looking for is super important. So, you know, culture is one of our top 3 pillars of priorities. And so we look at some of the metrics like, you know, how many of our new employees as we double in size are coming from referrals within our company. And that's a metric that I pay a lot of attention to, and more than half do. And so we're looking to improve on that even more. But measuring that every month in an operating review with the leaders and really inviting the company to participate, it really helps us all stay on the same page, because people can take a left or a right and be, you know, in basically heads down on what they're working on, but not realize how that actually contributes to the overall mission. So that's what we've done, and we've taken a really focused approach to that.
Okay. Now, I'm going to just share what Koen's vision is on open leadership. I mean, the new style of leadership is to be more collaborative, to be more authentic, to be more open, and not to have the traditional command and control. That in the end was easier. So leading in the new way is more difficult than it was before.
It challenges you because if you're in charge of let's say a team working in an agile way, 150 people all together, and you do what we call a PI planning, so kind of the start of a kickoff of for those who don't know the terminology, the kickoff of what you're going to do the next 3 months. As a leader, you're supposed to be there and explain concretely why you're going to do. Yeah. So if you're very exposed to, you really have to know what you want to get for. You're challenged by the teams because they are in the contact with the customers, they're in contact with the reality on a daily basis. So if that disconnect is too big between the people making great ideas in an ivory tower and the reality, it doesn't work. So it's very confronting for people in power positions where before they could say, I want it this way because I want it and I don't have to justify myself. No, there you go. You have people asking you, and are you sure the customer wants it? How did we test this? How are we going to do this? And you do it with a team. You don't do it alone, but it challenges you to make sure that you change that mindset, not for I want it because I'm the boss and because I think it's the presidential project that should go through, but does it deliver value? Does it serve customers? What problem does it solve? How can we do it cheaper? How can we do it faster? Isn't there an easy way around?
So Charles, how would you describe your leadership style? I mean, you've been the CIO in Nigeria. You've been, if I remember right, the CEO in what was it, Zambia?
Yes,
and
in
now Zambia, and now you're the group CIO, CTO, so very, very important leadership positions that you have and have today. What makes you special as a leader?
Look, I guess what makes me different, maybe not special, but different. Look, I mean, like I said in the video that we did, that my management or leadership style is always bespoke to the context of the situation, you know, and but I also believe that I have a gift and the ability to generate pressure, because you see, the ability for every leader to you know, be able to fend up their pressure within the organization and to unsettle the organization and to keep, you know, the organization on its toes is a gift. It's not many leaders who have the ability to be able to do that. So I believe I have the ability to do that. But I also believe in the wisdom of the crowd. Like I said, you know, when the crowd must be diverse, the crowd must be independent, and the crowd must be empowered. And I think if you do that, you will be able to extract more value from your people. But like I said, you know, there are instances when I'm super autocratic in how and what I want. You know, sometimes I'm a bit more open. Sometimes I lead from the front. And I think a lot of it also depends on the individuals I lead. It also depends on the phases of transformation or projects within the organization. So when I start in an organization, for instance, when I took over as the CEO in Zambia, and I arrived there, I told them that, you know, we're going to turn MTN Zambia into the Switzerland of MTN Group. I mean, people thought this was crazy, you know. And when you come up with a vision like that and you are alone leading that, you have to be in the front. So you must propagate the message more, because you want to make sure that you infuse the message within the organization as quick as possible. And then there comes a time when the people now, when they've taken what you believe, they will now start to be the one leading the message for you. Then you go in the background to be able to support them. So you always have to be sensitive about, where am I in the face of the organization? Who is listening? Do I have a nucleus, you know, in the organization that listens to what I'm saying? They can pick up the issues very quickly, that I can use them as my transformation agents to move my message quickly within the organization. So it's all very, you know, tactics of how you actually distribute the message. You know, like I said, you know, you have to look at the context of your organization, the context of your people, and the speed that you want to move. And sometimes, you know, you also manage your speed, because the fact that you as a leader can do multiple things and you can have 100 balls in the air does not mean that your people have the capacity to do that. So you have to allow for the period of being misunderstood, and not leave your vision simply because people find you confusing. Don't abandon that vision. You know, bring the people along, identify the key people, get the influencers. And once you do that, what I realized also, when people start to see you win and they see the company change and they see the results, you start to see change move much faster. But there's a time gap there. There's a space within when you start and when you get the result. That is a very lonely time where you are insecure about your decisions. You start to, you know, second guess whether your ambition and your vision is right. There's a very dangerous phase as a leader, because then, you know, you need to hold firm on what you want to achieve.
Okay, great. Now, by the way, for those of you here in Zoom, we're monitoring the chat. If you have a question for Angela or Glo, Honoré or Charles, please put that in the chat, and Luc will ventilate that back into the panel here. Angela, I know that you've been working with leadership in BT. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so in service platforms, we've had a huge focus on leadership over the past couple of years, and really, how can we drive our transformation by shifting our leadership mindset into a transformational mindset. So we've done a lot of kind of practical things. We've changed a lot of the conversations that we're having as a sort of senior management team to talk about leadership and to reflect on how we are as leaders and what we need to do to change, and to think about what are the behaviors that we want to have as a senior management team. What are the things that we want to do in order to help our teams feel like they're in the right environment, that they can, you know, speak safely, that they can raise new ideas, and just create that environment where people can come to the office and feel like, or come to work, not the office at the moment, and feel like they can do their, you know, their best work. And I think one of the things that we've really been trying to do is that two-way engagement. So rather than it being the leaders kind of broadcasting to the team, we're doing a lot more listening and having sort of drop-in sessions or forums where we can really hear what our teams are saying to us and the things that they think need to change. And, we hire incredibly smart people, so we can't think that we're the ones that are the smartest in the room, and we want to give people the opportunity to feel like they can, raise ideas, that they can help us to move in the right direction, and also tell us what's working and what's not working, so that we can adjust things in order to make that the best place for them. And I think, to Charles's point, part of the agile transformation, I think it is quite tough, because it takes time for people to start to work in a new way. And during that time, as people are learning and they're delivering at the same time, you can have that feeling of, is this actually going to work? Or, do we need to go back to, there's definitely a temptation to go back to kind of command and control, and this is the way we've done it in the past, we know it works, we should do it again. And I think you do need that bit of faith that actually it is the right direction. The pace at which technology is moving, if you don't become more agile, if you don't have your entire team thinking with that change mindset, learning and growing, then you will get left behind. And I think that's something that has been a huge kind of focus for us. And I think, it shifted slightly during COVID to make sure that, certainly for a few months at the beginning, the sort of leadership became about, how do we protect the well-being of our people? How do we make sure, obviously, our customers are safe and have what they need? How do we help the country, help the NHS? So there was a huge focus on that, and that was really, in an emergency footing. And then we came out of that and really started to focus back on, like, as a group of leaders, what do we need to do? How do we need to change in order to help our people change, or our colleagues change? So that's been a huge focus for us. And it again takes time. It doesn't happen instantly, but certainly feels like it's all going in the right direction.
Okay, great.